This is Good Noticing.
Ashley, good morning.
Good morning. Good
You guys,
late
we're lying.
morning.
It's 3:30 p.m. on Monday. We are recording just hours before the election for New York City ramps up and starts. Voting starts tomorrow. Yesterday, I can't wait to find out who the mayor is in the future, but you know, probably.
Hopefully you know. Hopefully we all know. And if it's not Zoran, don't.
No, maybe somebody
Text.
really cool gets written in like a mass psychosis.
Okay, do you know what I actually found out yesterday? And
That Bug is qualified to be mayor.
well, of course, and she should be, but she has rejected it and every time they've offered it to her. But I found out that if you get like written in as a judge, you don't even have to have a law degree. If you get elected a judge, you just like are one now.
Okay, maybe that's next year's marathon.
Can I say, vote me judge?
So I was going to say to you guys that we have gotten a late start because we had so much catching up to do because we didn't get to hang out at all yesterday.
I know.
Because Ashley spent 5 fucking hours running the New York City Marathon and you did it. Yay.
I did it. It took me way longer than my, you know, when they go make an eagle, a beagle, and a seagull. So no matter what, you're happy with yourself. I go, what if I make 5 or 6 goals and I don't hit a goddamn one of them?
Can I say, Ashley, the longer you run, the more impressed I am. Anybody could run for 3-4 hours. You were running for so fucking long and it's actually harder. Maybe it's not faster, but it's longer. And like, if you think about lovemaking.
That's kind of what you want is longer lovemaking. I always say.
Would you like someone fucking you quick and at pace, or would you like somebody long and low? Sorry, I'm so upset with myself. I'm really upset with what I did there.
Oh, anyway.
Sorry, I ruined your marathon.
Yeah, no, I'm going to just go back out and start running again. I may be feeling weak in the bones, but I could just start running again, I think, right now.
Anyway, tell us all about it. How do you feel?
Okay. You know, at first I felt sad because I was like, wow, I trained really hard for a really long amount of time. And this sucked ass. But it didn't suck ass. It was really fun and I finished it. And a lot of people don't finish stuff.
Yeah. Back to the sex thing.
Back to the sex thing. So many people don't finish all the time. You could be a gooner 12, 15 hours in a cave, just no completion. And I was not out there for 12, 15 hours. I completed. I was like, damn, that kind of sucked. But I was also like pretty consistent. And I definitely, okay, so here's the thing is I did like try as hard as I could. I wasn't out there being like, ugh, I give up. I definitely like did it hard. And I did run like a lot, almost the whole time, except for, I mean, I ran like 17 miles fully. And then I was like really walking the water stations, but I was like getting back to it ASAP instead of being like, well, I already started walking, might as well walk forever to my death in the sea. That was a thought that I had. And then I said, no, just keep running on the course. And my time splits were pretty consistent. I like felt good enough until I really didn't. And then I felt like I was like heaving my body along and it sucked because like mentally, energy-wise, I felt like I had more, but my knee was in like agony. I felt shooting pains through my knee and just like a sharp, consistent stabbing. And then I was just like, man, that really sucks because I felt like I still had energy, but physically I could not make my legs go faster. You know what I mean? When you're in your brain, you're like, okay, still in it. And then your body is like, no, you're not. What are you doing? And I feel like usually it's the opposite for me where my body
I've
is
never
like,
had that because I'm such a mentally weak person.
I guess I feel like I've always been the opposite where I'm always like, physically I could probably keep going, but mentally I'm kind of sick of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part that sucked is being like mentally I feel like I could keep going and physically my body was like, stop.
Well, I want to say this as a spectator. I saw Ashley at mile like 11 and a half. And then I hustled my dick off on the New York City goddamn transportation. I was hustling to try to catch her at 96 and first. Missed her. She was too fast. She was faster than me on the Q train. I saw signs that were like, you're faster than the Q train. And I was like, Ashley literally is.
Yay.
Then I ran a couple avenues over to catch her at 99th and 5th Avenue. And I saw you there and I thought she looks great. And I kept checking. And I said, she's right on pace. She's doing great. You were like, this sucks, but you were like plugging along and doing so great. And then I ran to an e-bike to bike my little faces. I was cutting through red lights. I mean, it was dangerous what I was doing. I slammed my e-bike into my dock. I couldn't be careful. My friend was running a race and I had to get back to it. I ran down 59th to catch you at 7th Avenue and 59th, right at the bottom, like mile 25 and a half. And Ashley's phone had died. So keep in mind that I couldn't even track her on Find My Friends anymore. Her phone had died. And I was like, oh my God, I think she lost her phone at 24. She had just run for hours. She has to finish 2 more miles, just raw dogging this shit.
Well, can I tell? I raw dogged the whole thing. I didn't turn my headphones on once.
Wow. And I bet you had a great playlist.
I really did have a great playlist, but my phone was dying so quickly that I was like, I don't think that connecting I had Bluetooth, I have Shox headphones, which, can I say, everyone who recommended those, you guys were right. They are the best running headphones I've ever had. I was just scared to turn on a Bluetooth device because I felt like connecting anything else to my phone would send it faster. And so I just didn't turn on my headphones once because I didn't turn them on at the beginning because I wanted to conserve battery. My plan was the Queensboro Bridge. I would turn on my headphones. But at the Queensboro Bridge, I was already at 30% battery. And I started at 100.
So she died. So I knew she was out there. I tracked her with my eyes. I caught her and she still had like a smile on her face and she was pushing along. I feel like when you get down to the bottom of the park there, a lot of people are walking. A lot of people are like slogging along. Ashley had a pep in her step, a swing in her ponytail. She had a smile on her face. She was pushing through. And I have to say, every time I saw you, you looked like great attitude. I know your goal was to not walk. I know you didn't do that. And I'm really in awe of what you accomplished. And I have to say, as somebody that was trying to chase you, you were going fucking fast. I really struggled to. My father-in-law texted me and he goes, how was the marathon? I go, I'm running right now. He goes, wait, you're running the marathon? I go, I'm chasing her and I can't keep up. I was exhausted from chasing you. So I think you did a phenomenal job and I'm really impressed. And I'm very excited. And I told Bug, and Bug said, I don't believe anybody should be anywhere but home. So I will say she is not supportive.
No, she really isn't.
She goes, look what I do to respect Ashley. I run in a circle very near to her. I go, I run in a tight circle.
And she goes faster than anyone's ever gone. She broke every world record for tight circle around me in the park.
We'll get more into the marathon on the Patreon, right?
Like, I have a lot more to say.
A lot of recommendations, a lot of tips and tricks. I will say, I think I know if you're a spectator, I've got the
lowdown.
The lowdown.
Yeah. Also to the wormies who are out there, you guys really fucking, I mean, Claire, seeing you, like knowing where I was going to see you really like put a pep in my step. And like you were with my parents and I was really excited to see you guys and the buggy big heads really like zhuzhed me. But also seeing the wormies, the ones at mile like Bedford and South something, whatever you guys were kind of at the top of Hasidic Williamsburg, that really was, I fucking needed you guys. And then also in Central Park at like mile 24 maybe, there was, I don't remember exactly where it was because I was slowly dying a painful death.
You and your phone.
Me and my phone were dying at the exact same time. And I was starting to really be like, I don't know if I have it in me. My knee was like trying to murder. It was asking to be ripped out. It said, just rip me, throw me out in the side of the road. And then you can just keep on going along with a jello leg.
Like Caroline Calloway.
Yeah, no kneecaps for days. And then someone goes, oh my God, I love your podcast. And I was like, oh, you can't see me walking. And so then I started really trying to push through again. And man, I needed it.
Okay, so more about that on the Patreon. We're very excited. And I guess let's keep the love train going. Ashley, even though most of your weekend, I'd say, was dominated by the marathon, do you have any recommendations?
Yes. Okay, my first recommendation is I actually took a picture of the hairspray. I've been experimenting.
I can't believe this. I feel shocked. I feel shocked that you use hairspray. I had no idea.
It's the Salon Graphics Level 5 Freeze Control hairspray. I have been experimenting for my last 3 or 4 long runs with how to make my hair not look really bad while I'm running. I mean, listen, I accomplished a marathon, didn't hit my goal. Least I can get is a fucking Instagram. I wanted my hair to look frozen.
You're allowed.
So I've been trying because the thing is I get flyaways really badly that defy all logic and gravity and go straight out to the side. I look like Doc from Back to the Future. And that's like 3 miles. And so when I do a long run, I look insane. It looks really bad. I've been trying to figure out how to hold everything down. I've been working with clips. I tried a wax, like a styling wax. I tried a couple different products. This one I impulse bought at Target last weekend. And I hadn't tested it on a run. And let me tell you what, my hair stayed shellacked to my damn head.
I noticed.
It was solid and tight. That's what I wanted.
Thank God. And thank God in the nick of time.
It's exactly what I wanted. I sprayed it on my head in the morning and I said, well, hopefully this works. And if not, I really don't have another option because the wax, I don't know how people do that. It was not working for me. I found it impossible to even get it from like my palm to my hair in a reasonable fashion. It said rub a dime size amount in your palm and then spread it in your hair. I said, well, now my palms are covered in wax and it won't transfer to my hair. Anyway, so to that hairspray, I say thank you. I was shellacked. Next up, I want to recommend a crinkle cut fry. I really consider myself a French fry expert. It's one of my favorite foods. I love a French fry, and I do think a crinkle cut is the number one shape of fry.
I think if you're an expert, then you have to acknowledge that all people have different preferences.
Well, as a connoisseur, I think my highest recommendation—
I think you can be a connoisseur and be like, this restaurant does the best crinkle cut, but I don't think you get to—
Shape-wise, as a connoisseur, I most recommend the crinkle cut shape.
Okay, I just didn't like the tone you took, but keep going.
If I were to recommend to you French fries, plain, I don't think that would be a worthwhile recommendation. Everyone knows
what a crinkle cut fry. Everyone's been to a pool in the summer, Ashley.
And what's not to love about that? Every image you're conjuring.
I'll tell you what.
Exactly fucking right.
I'll tell you why I don't like a crinkle cut later. It's not appropriate now, but keep going.
Well, that's my recommendation, crinkle cut fries. And my third recommendation is— this one's kind of a stealing from you, I guess, in many ways. It's kind of an appropriation of your culture. Dairy Girls for anxiety.
DAIRY? No, she's talking about DERRY.
DERRY girls for anxious television watching. I really was nervous the night before the marathon, and I was just sitting at home eating pasta galore, and I couldn't decide what to watch, and I said, we got to get the girls on here. I watched the pilot episode, actually, and I do think it's one of the best episodes of television ever made. The way it is just like a perfect structure. I love that show, and I recommend it. Claire, what are your recommendations?
Okay, number 3, my CB2 desk. I got a desk last February, and I have to say it's one of my most complimented furniture pieces. I don't know what they're doing at CB2, but it's a cut above the rest. I feel like if you're looking for something a little nicer than IKEA, I really am loving what CB2 is doing, and I get a lot of compliments on my desk, and people think it looks like not vintage, but timeless and tasteful. Beautiful. And it's a solid, beautiful desk, and I love it.
Well, that's how something becomes vintage, I suppose. If it's timeless and tasteful today, it's a beautiful vintage piece later.
Maybe. We'll see. Good luck to it. Number 2, Operation Mincemeat. The rumors are true. It's fucking phenomenal. I mean, it's so funny. It's so brilliant. It's like one of my favorite styles of theater, in that it's like a few people playing many roles. Everybody is so talented. It's so brilliant. It's so tight. I was laughing out loud. And then in the middle of it, it's just like one of the most profound, beautiful, heart-wrenching moments of theater I've ever seen. A song that made me cry multiple times re-listening. And if you are already a fan of Operation Mincemeat and have already seen it, you will be so stoked to know that I interviewed Tosh Hodgson.
Fun.
The episode is live on the Patreon for free. So even if you're not a Patreon subscriber, you can just go to the website and you have access to the audio. It'll be free audio. It's absolutely brilliant how she got to where she is, the thought that went into that piece. I mean, it's just, if you're somebody who's really committed to your craft and feels like you've just been scraping along and trying to figure it out with your buddies, what a story. It really is the story of how do you make it when it's just a lot of integrity and talent and hard work. And I'll tell you what, it takes a little bit longer, but boy, what a slam when she got there. That was a delightful conversation. I can't recommend it more. And then recommendation number 1, Sophie Buttle.
Oh my God, I love her.
Do you know her?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, I actually don't know her, but we're mutuals. And I have to say, I'm stopped dead in my tracks every time I see one of her clips. She makes me laugh every time. She's so fucking funny.
I love her voice.
She's so funny and she kills me every time. And if you're looking for a comedian to go check out live, she has some sets. I'm not sure if she has a special, but she definitely has done some late night sets that have really cracked me up. But
she comes to New York quite often too.
Yes.
Well, she travels constantly. So wherever you are.
I think she's a traveling comedian. If she's from Canada, I think.
Yeah.
That's why you can feel the goodness in her heart.
She's got a joke about a cum rag that really makes me, I mean, it's really good.
She's so funny and she kills me every time. So if you're looking for another funny lady, in addition to us. Oh my God. And Ashley, in honor of the mayoral election that was yesterday, I have a really fun mayor story for you.
I'm excited to hear it.
Okay. So have you heard that the Times of London put out this article that Mayor Deblasio, although he stands with Zoran Mamdani, actually doesn't think that his plan is completely plausible, and he doesn't think the money is going to show up where he claims it'll show up, and he won't be able to pay for any of the things he says he'll do. Did you hear that Deblasio said this?
I actually did hear that Deblasio said this.
In a break from his support of Mamdani, he came out and said, I don't really think this is a feasible plan. Guess why he said that?
Why?
He didn't. LOL.
Okay, well then why would the Times of London say such a thing? Why are they trying to break up a beautiful friendship?
So before we get to the why, I want to start with the how. So how did this happen? Well, I guess they just emailed Deblasio at hotmail.com. And the guy who responded, who feels he is deeply innocent, he goes, well, I never said I was the mayor. They said, hi, Bill Deblasio. What do you think about this? And he said, I told them my feelings. It's also just another dude named Bill Deblasio.
Yeah, but did Bill Deblasio too ever once think, why would anyone ask my opinion about this?
No, but it's happened to him often. And I will say in his defense, when questioned about if he feels guilty about misleading.
I mean, I'll stand by him and say it's on a fucking journalist to check.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. He goes, I thought they had people. He goes, yeah, I just said something. He just emailed me out of the blue. I sent a response. He goes, I thought they were going to check their work.
I could see in the modern day of what journalism has become, a platform running an article called, we asked 15 Bill de Blasios what they think.
Yeah, the BuzzFeedification. We need a list. If we can't get Bill de Blasio to say 15 things, can we get 15 Bill de Blasios to say just one thing, maybe?
And I would read that article.
What's every Bill de Blasio think? Anyway, so they immediately had to retract it. They're friends with the New York Post, who famously hates Zoran Mamdani and democracy and stuff. They had to, a lot of people had to take it down, but they were very quick and excited to post this because the Times of London has been kind of doing a hit job on Zoran. And here's where I think you'll get very interested.
Uh-oh.
She didn't necessarily edit this piece, and she didn't assign the piece. But who do you think is the overall editor at the Times of London who has been pushing this anti-Mamdani agenda?
Someone I know?
So the push comes from the top. I'm quoting semaphore.com. The push came from the top. As the New York mayor's race approaches, the Times of London has accelerated its push for more and largely hostile coverage of Mamdani. That campaign has been driven internally by Margie Conklin, a New York Post veteran who was most recently managing editor at the Free Press.
Oh my God, the Free Press strikes again.
The Free Press, if you guys don't know, was the Substack blog started by
Bari Weiss,
who is now the editor-in-chief of all of CBS News.
Bari Weiss is a opinion writer from, I believe, the Wall Street Journal and then the New York Times.
Yeah, and then she started her own blog on Substack, which she then sold for $150 million, and now she's the head of CBS.
News, not CBS Opinions.
Yeah,
News.
CBS News. Of course, she does not have an actual journalistic background.
Yeah, famously a Zionist agenda, we're not Trumpers, we just have a lot of opinions that say, what's Trump doing? That's so bad. And then they're also famously against climate activism. They believe that the climate's actually fine. And their big thing on social media is to prove to you that actually there's no reason to be that worried about global warming and stuff.
I mean, it really is like if Ashley and I got to become the head of CBS News.
So I can't imagine that her former managing editor has anything negative to say over at the Times of London.
So anyway, helpful news, good journalism, and honestly, justice for the other Bill de Blasio, because I think you get to say, if I'm blatantly lying in an email, or not even lying, but they should catch it. Don't they have a second person looking at this stuff? Though their names are quite similar, lest you mistake them for identical, the former mayor spells his last name with a space and a lowercase d, while the man who spoke to the Times sticks with no space and an uppercase d. Two differences that are unfortunately unrecognized by an email address. As the no space uppercase de Blasio put it to Semaphore, only, quote, low-class Italians use a little d. Can I say LOL too? Because he is the quintessential hater of Mamdani, a real New Yorker who lives in Long Island. And
oh my God, I was going to guess Staten.
No. A Staten Island person has a mayor of New York City as their mayor. It makes sense for them to care about who's their mayor. To be in Long Island and be I got to put in my I've been running the numbers. The other thing is he did, in fact, conduct this interview via Ring camera while he was in Florida. So, I mean, a true New York City liver, someone whose main residence is in Long Island, but mostly is in Florida.
I was just guessing Staten Island from calling someone else a low-class Italian.
No. Well, that's where the low-class Italians live. The high-class ones are in Long Island.
Oh, that's fair.
Can I say something weird? They kind of look alike.
I mean, they could be related.
Well, there's also a chance that I'm just looking at a photo of Bill de Blasio. I don't think so, though. Okay. Do you have anything you'd like to catch me up on?
Yeah, I got some bad news about Planned Parenthood.
Oh, God.
Things are going bad.
Oh, since when?
The government's pretty pissed at them. And there's no reason for the government to get so involved because it seems that Planned Parenthood Southeast is taking itself down from the inside.
Weird.
So Mother Jones is reporting that there is a new CEO of Planned Parenthood Southeast.
And what is Planned Parenthood Southeast? Like just that region of America?
Yes. So there are different regional Planned Parenthoods that all run as their own foundation. The current CEO of Planned Parenthood Southeast is Mero Akpose, who was an HR specialist with no background in reproductive rights, who became the interim CEO and then was made permanent in 2024. And I guess the question I have that I don't feel this article really answers is how did that happen? Like, how did this person rise to the top? So essentially what's happening right now is Mero has been kind of cleaning house and bringing in her own team of people who have really limited experience in reproductive health and reproductive rights. And so what it's done is create this kind of destabilized sector of Planned Parenthood, especially in the Southeast, where it's so crucial to have an operating Planned Parenthood. Right now, they serve about 15,000 women in states where abortion has become illegal. They provide birth control and education.
And I imagine these are states that are very spread out.
Yes. So for any sector of Planned Parenthood to be destabilized right now in American history is really bad. The Southeast really needs it. And she has kind of brought in an agenda of like, let's stop talking about abortion so much. She's like kind of dabbled in pro-life ideology and doesn't think that Planned Parenthood should be so focused on abortion. And the veterans of Planned Parenthood are like, no, our key mission is actually destigmatizing abortion and like featuring abortion and talking about it heavily.
Who picked her?
That's what I'm saying is I don't feel this article really explains how she found herself in this position. And a bunch of staffers have spoken to the board and tried to raise flags with Planned Parenthood, the national group, with the Southeast board. And no one is really paying attention, or maybe they're paying attention, but they're not stepping in to do anything. And people are very concerned. They're working kind of arm in arm with pro-life organizations now and not viewing pro-life organizations as the absolute enemy of Planned Parenthood. Like they had a pretty apt analogy. One of the staffers said it's kind of like if the ACLU and the KKK teamed up for a mission. And it's like, yeah, kind of. They're saying that there just is no standard of like understanding within the reproductive health world. It really does kind of shake up the entire mission of Planned Parenthood to say that we're not going to focus so much on abortion. I kind of don't know what will happen. This is a scoop. Mother Jones is the first to report on this shady change of leadership at Planned Parenthood Southeast. So I don't really know what could or will happen with it and what it really means, but it is decidedly not good. I guess I really am curious and I wish that there was more information because again, this is kind of the first reporting on the topic. So I don't have more information about how this woman is able to kind of become the CEO of Planned Parenthood Southeast and bring in her own team of people who hate abortion. It makes me want to just like punch Ezra Klein in his fucking face and be like, what do you think is going to happen when leftist organizations or like left-leaning organizations cater to the right? I guess we're about to get you your prime little experiment. Congratulations, you win, bitch.
The joke is they'll never say, oh, experiment over, because there's always more you can capitulate. Mm-hmm. Because the more you capitulate, the stronger their stances get.
And it's just
and
women's
first they
lives.
come for abortion, then they come for birth control.
And we're just weak idiots. So why not test us? Throw us in the water like chum.
Damn, that bummed me out.
Sorry.
Why'd you bum me out?
Okay, should we talk about something funner?
Okay, first of all, thoughts on overall Halloween costumes this year from the celebrities?
You know, I've said it on the Patreon. I'll say it again. I stand with Meech. A Halloween costume cannot just be an Instagram post.
That's medium-sized Meech on Threads.
Medium-sized Meech is leading an incredible movement to say no. Just say no to celebrities who think that, if your costume involves a very specific pose against a very specific background, it's not a costume. It's a likeness recreation, and it's not that interesting. And
when you have a full team, it's not that fun. Yeah.
It's not that fun. I do think some celebrities really impressed me this year. I really got a kick out of Demi Lovato as Poot. That's very funny.
I feel people are less slutty these days. I was on the streets. I actually went to the club for Halloween and I got rejected. My ID
For
was
being too young.
Yeah, well, for being too immature. My driver's license was expired and they wouldn't let me in. I couldn't believe it. I kept going, I'm 33 years old. Can I please go in? And he was like, no. And I was
Oh
like,
my
is it
God.
because I'm 33 years old?
Can I tell you, when I went to the bar after the marathon, I was worried I would get turned away for looking so young and fresh. But my bib said my age on it. So I said, well, hopefully this will get me in. But instead, they turned me away because they said, we're actually completely full and you can't come in. And I said, my phone is dead and my parents are in there. Please.
So you cried like a baby. You said, but I lost my mom. She said to meet here. Please, sir.
Literally.
Okay. So one of the celebrity dress-up outfits was Kayla Nicole. You may know her as Travis Kelce's former girlfriend of 5 years. They dated from 2017 to 2022.
That's a long time.
That is a long time. They did it for 5 years. And then for Halloween, she dressed up as Toni Braxton and performed the music video, He Wasn't Man Enough. The lyrics go a little something like this. Listen, girl, who do you think I am? Don't you know that he was my man, but I chose to let him go? So why do you act like I still care about him? Looking at me like I'm hurt when I'm the one who said I didn't want it to work. Don't you forget I had him first. And then the chorus says something like, what are you thinking? Did you know about us back then? Do you know I dumped your husband, girlfriend? I'm not thinking about him, but you married him. Do you know I made him leave? Do you know he begged to stay with me? He wasn't man enough for me.
Oh.
And here's what I want to say.
Tony.
Justice
Go
for
off.
Kayla Nicole, because
I'm so on her side.
the Swifties have suggested that Kayla Nicole has been making a living getting involved in the Taylor and Travis thing, that somehow she won't let it go. And Kayla Nicole has said almost fucking nothing, except for on one single podcast. I believe it was Angel Reese's podcast. Angel Reese says something like, oh, I was sad when you and Travis broke up. I loved you guys together. Have you seen him since? And then Kayla Nicole said something under the lines of, we've been in the same room before, but we like give a head nod. We keep it demure kind of, because she said, I understand the situation he's in. We can't really acknowledge each other in public like that. But it seems like all is good. So the Swifties took this and ran with it as if she was calling what Taylor and Travis had a situationship. It was very clear to me that when she said, I understand the situation that he is in now, what she meant wasn't the situation isn't their relationship. The situation is Taylor's fame. He is in a situation where everything he's doing, as evidenced by the fallout of this podcast snip, is that the Swifties are psychopaths who will take anything and run with it. So when she said he's in a situation, like the situation he's in, she means
Which
like,
is if he's spotted talking to an ex, the Swifties will freak out.
and they both get that. It's a situation. Much like if you were dating a royal or you were dating, like it's protocol. You know what I mean? It's like he's with an Obama or something. So she says that they run with it. They start this idea that Kayla's nonstop talking about Taylor. I couldn't find one piece of evidence that she's ever talking about Taylor.
I also could not find any evidence that she's talking about Taylor. However, if she were, we have entered this world, this like puritanical, bonkers ass society where no one's allowed to like feel a little non-egregiously sour about a relationship ending. I am sorry. I have had very amicable breakups, and there are times when you just are a little sour. That doesn't mean you spend all of your life in a fucking cave like drawing etchings of like what you hope happens to their bodies. It means that sometimes you just look at a breakup and you feel some type of way about their new relationship, about the breakup, etc. People are people, and you're allowed to be a little bit sour when your ex starts dating one of the most famous women in the world. There's no evidence that she's sour about it, but if she were—
I love this choice of word sour.
I guess I really feel that sour is the exact right word.
And also because they're everywhere. Can I say they are inescapable? It's one thing to have to like block your ex because his Instagram stories upset you. Imagine that every time you leave your house or open your phone, there they are. Like they are inescapable.
I feel sour is the right word because it's one of those things where it's inescapable and you don't necessarily feel angry or upset or whatever. You just feel like, like,
Yeah.
like, sour. And so
Good acting.
I just think to feel a little saucy about it is exactly normal. And we have to stop acting like anyone who has a feeling about anything is like evil or pure.
Anyway, so here's why she's allowed to do that. quote unquote clap back. I wouldn't say clap back's the word I use, but this feels like a direct attack. And it's only fair because in Opalite, off of The Life of a Showgirl, Taylor's last album, she has an entire lyric attacking Kayla Nicole in a way that I was like, this isn't. I remember when there was conversation about Opalite coming out, I was like, why is nobody talking about this insane swipe she took at Kayla pretty specifically? And I'm like, bitch, you're a billionaire with a fiance. Why did you do this? You won. You won.
You couldn't understand it, why you felt alone. You were in it for real. She was in her phone and you were just a pose. So there is footage of Kayla Nicole and Travis Kelce together where he's saying, get off your phone.
There's like a bunch of clips that have since resurfaced and have always been circulating. It's not even just one. And I'm like, look, don't date an influencer if you don't want somebody on their phone. It's like, imagine if she was like, you were always playing football.
You were always playing football and I was just a cheerleader. Like, I don't know. It's such a crazy thing to say about someone's ex when you are a billionaire #1 artist on the earth.
So I feel like Kayla gets to defend herself. And I'm sorry, I feel like the fuck catch-22 of Taylor Swift is that like she's so famous that everything becomes about her, but also you're not allowed to ever acknowledge that something's about her.
Yeah.
Like it is this weird thing where like if Taylor was less famous, you'd be allowed to say something about your ex dating some new girl. But like anything you say can be interpreted as about her. Like the fact that her fans are the one making everything in your life about Taylor makes you the crazy one.
Yeah.
And I'm like proud of her for just coming out and being like, fuck you, I look hot. And honestly, I really thought that swipe that Taylor made was really rude. You're already dating him. You don't need to like call his ex-girlfriend a shallow phone-obsessed person.
The thing with Life of a Showgirl that I don't like is I feel like a lot of times Taylor has these moments where I go, yeah, even if you're Taylor Swift, you feel this way. I feel that it is an obnoxious thing to do no matter what. If like you are the fiance to go and your ex-girlfriend was such a shallow bitch. You just can't do that.
Can I say this actually is a point that I felt was one of the things I found so odd about.
Especially if you're as famous as Taylor Swift.
Especially. Something I found very odd about The Life of a Showgirl is I felt a lot of the moments that she describes were things that I had seen with my own eyes on Instagram.
Yeah.
There was something very bizarre about like the source material. Like I didn't know about that red scarf that she left at her sister's house that he still got even now.
Right.
But I did see the video of Travis showing up halfway through the concert and her looking up and smiling when she saw him, which she writes in a poem. The minute I saw those lyrics, I went, oh, I know exactly the video you're talking about. Something about the Eras tour. And they even talk about on the way home, like talking about the videos they saw of each other. Ironically, I feel like she became more of an influencer through this Eras tour where there was so much content of her every night, especially at the Eras tour, that I feel, I don't know, there's something weird where I was like, I feel like you're seeing your relationship the way I'm seeing your relationship, which is in fan cams.
I mean, I've been saying since the beginning that the thing that makes her and Travis perfect for each other is how much they both crave the attention and the approval of the fan experience of their relationship.
Yeah.
Listen, it could not be true. I don't think it's positive or negative in anybody's camp. I'm not talking shit about anyone. I do think it feels like they've structured their relationship to be like a fan experience. Like we all saw him say, I'm going to go try to get her attention. And then we saw her respond to it. And then we saw them in the car together. It feels like we were brought on the journey of their relationship in a very purposeful way.
Yeah. I find it very interesting the way her last 3 boyfriends handled the fan experience of Taylor Swift, which is Joe Alwyn saying, we have to ignore it. We can't like invite it. It's a negative. The fan is the negative. Maddie Healy had this kind of like your fans suck. Older brother making fun of her fans because she goes along with whatever the boyfriend says. Joe Alwyn says they can't hear about us. So she goes, okay, we're a secret. Maddie Healy says your fans are kind of dorks. And she goes, I know, daddy, I love him. And then Travis goes, oh my God, how amazing is it to be the most famous person in the world? Why should you ever feel guilty or bad about this? And she's like, yeah, you're right. Get in my jet.
Should we move into the real crazy bitches of the hour?
Yeah, so this, I would say if every episode has a theme, I think the theme of this episode will be, wow, people are fucking insane. Everybody's crazy. We are going to talk today about 2 kind of baffling profiles of people. One was in The Cut about a nanny who moved into the guest house and then refused to leave. And then the other is about a woman who is 68 years old and won't stop having children. God.
Which one do you want to do first? The children?
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so this article is called She Was Ready to Have Her 15th Child, Then Came the Felony Charges. Mary Beth Lewis's desire to be a new mom again at 65 years old led to a custody battle like no other. This was in the New York Times. It came out November 2nd, Marathon Day. Talk about a marathon.
Oh my God. For her, childbearing years are an ultra.
Mary Beth Lewis is a woman who met her husband when she was in her early 20s. They got married at 25. She had her first daughter. They'd always dreamed of having a big family. Her husband, Bob, was a pilot who worked for the Air Force for a while and then got a quite lucrative job flying for FedEx. And it seems like they have the perfect arrangement. They had 5 daughters pretty quickly. He was gone 2 weeks out of the month, but it seems like it worked for everybody. You know what I mean? She had her domestic life. He had his work life. He liked coming home to a family and then being on his own.
And she seemed to handle parenting very well. She loved having 5 girls. She, it seems, loved when he was gone even. It seems like he was a pretty helpful guy, and he was kind of the talk of the town as that sweet husband who he was gone a lot, but when he was home, he would come in and change a diaper before he even took his jacket off.
So when Mary Beth hit her early to mid 40s, she decided she didn't like being alone. She was kind of an empty nester. Empty nesting was approaching. Her husband was still gone 2 weeks a year. And it's crazy because I said, oh, this is a case of a woman with no friends, right? But it seems like she has tons of friends. She was involved in tons of activities. She ended up getting her doctorate degree in nursing. She is like a busy, fulfilled, engaged lady. But nevertheless, in her mid 40s, she decides to try to have another baby. She's unable to do so right away by herself. So she ends up using IVF.
Mm-hmm. So they freeze some embryos, and then she's able to successfully implant embryos and has twin boys, I believe.
Twin girls.
Oh, so that she has twin girls.
So that's in 2007, 3 weeks before her 50th birthday. Something interesting to note here is that actually she had to go through a fertility chain called CNY Fertility, which was the only one they could find that did not have an age limit. A lot of the fertility clinics would not put an embryo in a woman that old.
Yeah, most have an age limit of 45. So she went with this clinic. She had twins just before her 50th birthday. And then she decided to do it again.
The delivery almost killed her. She developed a rare blood clotting disorder, required 21 units of blood, and woke up on a ventilator. The doctors said it was a miracle she survived. But the babies were here, joining their older sisters who ranged in age from 13 to 23. Then she had another baby in 2010. She had another daughter, her 8th. Then she has twin boys. What's crazy is every single time she has one of these babies, everyone goes, wow, that's a miracle. You done? And she's like, oh, I could never have another one. I'm so busy.
And then she starts doing it as a secret.
So she gave birth to twin boys in 2012 when she was 55 years old. These were 9 and 10. When she had been young with Bob, they'd always joked about having 10 children. Everybody's like, great, you're done. She also does suffer a couple of personal tragedies. Her mother dies. They had been very close. And her second oldest child, Christina, who struggled with bipolar disorder, had a heart attack and seemed to become like catatonic. They couldn't get her back. Because they're a family of means, they were able to try a lot of different medical
solutions,
experiments that most people wouldn't be able to afford. Like they helivaced her privately
to Tijuana
so that she could try stem cell research. That didn't really work. So her family sees this as like a real breaking point for her of needing even more children, even though she had 10 and at this point was nearly 60 years old.
So she's 60 years old and also out of embryos. And at this point, she decides to buy eggs and sperm and create new embryos that she's then storing. And she implants one of them in herself.
Yeah, she didn't think it was even going to happen. But then sure enough, she has 2. She has twins. She actually at this point is working in a fertility clinic. She worked at an OBGYN clinic. Women 20 years her junior who were struggling to conceive looked on with shock when Mary Beth's swollen belly greeted them in the exam room. That December, Mary Beth gave birth to her 3rd set of twins, the family's 11th and 12th children. The new mother was 59 years old.
This feels like the actual bonkers version of that Ann Patchett book I read. State of Wonder, I think.
I was going to say, this feels like an extreme hilaria. I was like, she has whatever mental illness hilaria has where they're addicted to giving birth and having babies.
No, I mean, this read like a really undiscovered mental illness of this addiction to having children.
That like we've never been able to see before.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had the medical ability to like let women keep having children. But I was like, this is insane. Somebody has to stop her. She's now on 12 children at 60 years old. And her older kids are furious. One of them has to come back and help. She immediately fails out of college because she's helping raise the children. I mean, if your mom for no reason has a set of twins that almost kills her and then continues to have children when it could kill her again, it's like irresponsible to the other children. Her children are pointing out, if you keep having these babies, like they won't know you for that long. You don't have that many years left and you're actually only hurting yourself by continuing to go through these pregnancies.
Yeah. And they're saying, these kids are going to be our responsibilities someday because you are 60.
Apparently, she always just said, it gets so lonely. I don't want to be lonely. You don't get to have babies forever because you're lonely.
Also, you have a lot of children who are also still young. At this point, she has 6 or 7 kids under 10, and she's 60. Clearly, babies are not the solution to loneliness because you have a lot of babies.
Well, I guess she has kids. That's the problem with babies as they grow up. But you know who does have babies? Your babies.
Yeah.
Her older children are now starting to have their own children, and they feel frustrated with the fact that they aren't getting the support they had hoped they would get from their baby-loving mother because she has to take care of her own kids. They're like, just come help us with ours. You promised to be an involved grandmother. So on Easter morning in 2019, Mary Beth is now 62. Mary Beth and Bob gathered 11 of their 12 children in the foyer. Mary Beth handed each of them a plastic egg. The Lewis children ranged from age 2 to 35. When they cracked open the plastic, all they found was the same note. We're egg-specting. Nobody understood how it was possible. They were like, is the dog having a baby? First, she had her 5 children, and then she went back through and implanted embryos of their own. When they ran out of their 5 embryos, then she got a sperm and an egg donor.
This he knew about.
Yes. But he didn't know that she had impregnated herself.
They had a child with the embryos, with the donor embryos. Then they still had a bunch frozen. Without him knowing, she went and got more implanted into her.
And she goes, well, at this age, I thought, what are the chances they stick? What if one sticks? 2 stuck. So she was pregnant with twins again, and she hadn't told her own husband until 12 weeks in. She is 62 years old.
So then this kind of shatters her relationship with her oldest daughter, one of her older daughters, like from the first batch of children that she had when she was in her 30s.
They call themselves the originals.
Yikes. They feel very frustrated because they're now in their late 20s and 30s and trying to have their own families, trying to kind of create their own lives. And they keep getting sucked back into this situation where now they're key adults in the lives of more newborns. She really is furious with her mom, and it takes them years to repair their relationship.
So in 2022, the pandemic lifted. Mary Beth turned 65 and it felt a familiar urge. The Lewises were still paying $50 a month to keep their last few embryos frozen at CNY Fertility Clinic in Syracuse.
And so the fertility clinic is, sending invoices and saying, do you want to keep these embryos? Bob has said, I think we should have them destroyed because we're not going to have any more kids.
And she doesn't feel that that's right. She doesn't feel it's right to leave them. She says, as a Catholic, to me, conception begins as soon as the embryo is formed. Of course, the Catholic Pope is actually against IVF. And a lot of people have been like, interesting when you're a Catholic and when you're not a Catholic. That being said, so these embryos are the donor embryos, but they are genetically related to the 3 youngest children that Bob and Mary Beth had.
It's also important to note that I think until the situation we're about to discuss, no one in the family knew that the 3 youngest children, besides Bob and Mary Beth, no one knew that those 3 youngest children were conceived via donor embryo. They thought that all the kids were fully biologically related.
So at this point, she wants to have another kid, and she goes to her OBGYN, and they say, listen, you'll die. Your uterine scar from your 6 C-sections is paper thin. It'll rupture, and you'll die. You cannot have another baby. She is, again, at this point,
60-something.
65 years old.
Also, Bob has now retired. So pilots have to retire at 65 years old. He is now home, and he's saying, obviously, no more children. This is too many children. All of my fellow retiree pilot buddies are on vacation and traveling the world in their retirement. And I'm changing diapers and watching Cocomelon. This fucking blows. So what Mary Beth does, and this is what the article's about, is Mary Beth forges Bob's signature to hire a surrogate to implant their donor embryos into a surrogate.
She contacted Right Options, a surrogacy agency, which soon located a young woman in Steuben County who was interested in being a gestational carrier. Mary Beth also hired a New Jersey-based reproductive attorney. And again, she filled out all the paperwork and paid for everything without Bob's knowing. So it was $49,000 for the surrogate plus $7,000 if there's twins, plus $3,500 hazard bonus if she needed a C-section, $200 a week for the breast milk, plus her health care, which would cost $160K.
So she forges Bob's signature. She has her cousin notarize the documents, and the surrogate is implanted with donor embryos, which both stick.
The article says the Lewises could afford it. In retirement, Bob took in $200,000 a year from 2 pensions and Social Security. Mary Beth still earned $92,000 a year as a nurse practitioner. They had $2 million in a 401k account. I guess that there could be money unaccounted for here. Okay, so they're earning about $300K a year, which is a lot of money. It's great money. And that's something that comes up a lot, that this was like a well-to-do family. But if you're spending $160K on a surrogate, that's like a sizable portion that I don't understand how it could go unnoticed when you also have 10 other kids that you're actively raising.
Yeah. So 2 embryos stick. The surrogate is now pregnant with twins, and she waits months to tell Bob about it and the other children. Nobody knows about this.
Yeah, because she's thinking, well, maybe they won't even stick.
And then they stick. The surrogate has some bleeding. She thinks, oh, maybe it won't even go. It goes. I mean, the surrogate, I think, is like 7 or 8 months pregnant by the time Bob finds out what's happening. And he reports her.
Well, okay, so what happens is she does actually have to go to a custody, because you have to get official adoption papers. You have to get like the right to parentage or whatever. And it's finally, there's a local judge and they have to do a Zoom meeting. She says Bob is in Japan and just has his camera off and grunts.
Yeah.
And of course, this is weird enough that the judge goes, what the hell? So he sends a paper to their house. She had been getting all of the mail having to do with this surrogate to a P.O. box. Bob is home, looks at the mail and goes, what the fuck is this? And as Ashley says, reports her. But I have to say, like, what do you mean you can get as far as 7 months pregnant with a surrogate before any of the law or anybody involved even sees both parents? What do you mean it was all signatures? At some point, like, there should be a meeting involved.
I wonder if it's like post-COVID world stuff.
No, I think it's surrogacy is quack money making bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that Wired article we did in our first ever episode. The problem is these surrogacy agencies have no oversight. They'll let anybody do anything for money. It's truly sometimes straight up child trafficking. The idea that somebody wouldn't have to in-person meet you.
Yeah. No, it's insane. Especially the fact that in general, this surrogacy agency, aside from not even meeting both parents, the fact that they agreed to work with this woman who was in her late 60s and had
13 kids.
13 children.
Like, there's something wrong there.
Yeah. So what we have here is Mary Beth, mother of 13, has essentially illegally gotten her husband's permission to implant the donor embryos that they co-owned, I guess, because they didn't create them using their own biology. They bought them to implant into a surrogate. The surrogate is now pregnant with twins. Bob has just found out that he is expecting twins against his will in a surrogate. And the judge who has to confirm patronage, and I don't know if this happens for all surrogacy pregnancies or if it's because it's donor embryos and a surrogate.
I think it's for all. I think you have to have like a paper signed. Yeah. But however, the case that like kind of figured this out in the 90s is essentially that the most important is like the idea of the intention, whose intention it was to bring this child into the world. Because they were saying right now, because of science, we have to be able to like kind of break up motherhood into the genetic mother, the donor egg, the gestational mother, the person who carries the baby, and then the social mother, the person who raises this child. There's arguments made for all three. And of course, nobody would say like an adoptive mother isn't a real mother, et cetera. But when you have 3 separate bodies bringing one child into the world, who's the rightful mother?
Yeah. So now Bob has revoked his consent fairly because he never gave it.
And also now he's outed her as a fraudster because it's actually illegal to like forge somebody's signature on legal papers, including she had a friend who notarized something without Bob there. Like she was really went above and beyond.
Yes. So now she's being, I guess, indicted for fraud. These babies are not related to the gestational carrier. They are
unwanted by the donors,
by the sperm donor and the egg donor, and they won't give them to Mary Beth.
I will say the judge that is presiding over this case is kind of a small town judge. And this does come back that they don't deal with a lot of custody cases like this. It's very unusual for them. And his name is Chauncey J. Watches, which, as the author of this article says, is quite a Dickensian name. The idea that like the judge is the man who watches.
Oh, Chauncey
J. Watches.
That sounds like a really like fun watch brand.
Chauncey J.
Yeah.
To me, it sounds like a not nice brand that's trying to sound fancy.
No, I know, but in like a fun, like it feels like a Swatch meets like a Swatch wannabe Cartier.
Yeah. I like the idea of J watches, like jaywalking, but kind of like when you like scout something from across the room.
Yeah.
Like I just jaywatched you.
Ooh.
When you catch somebody off guard, it's jaywatching.
My partner and I J-watched you from across the room.
And we were wondering if you'd be the gestational and genetic donor to our baby that my husband doesn't know about.
Okay, so essentially where we're at is this court has to grant patronage, parenthood, to Mary Beth and Bob. Bob had initially said no, but then he goes back and goes, okay, you know what? We brought these kids into this world. What are we going to do? Leave them parentless? Because these kids would be fully legally parentless.
The other thing is what Bob hadn't taken into consideration was that they would split up. She would take half of everything. They still would have
he says, I'm going to break up with you.
Can I say?
He should have.
And he should have broken up with her like 6 sets of twins ago.
Yeah. Anyway, so he has gone back and said, okay, I'll be the dad. Those are my kids. But because it's moved to this point in court, there's still a decision that's been made that says these people cannot legally have these children. And also there's a fraud case against her. The children are then born.
Baby A and baby B. And they're put into foster care. And here's where it's like tricky because you do now have this situation where they're threatening to send Mary Beth to jail for 7 years for essentially child trafficking and fraud, which I get the fraud thing. You can't sign somebody else's name. But if like the problem is that they feel these children have been brought into an unsafe world, it's not safer for any of the children now to have their mother be in jail.
Yeah.
So that sucks. Like you now have these children that were wanted by someone. She sounds like a nutcase, but they were wanted and now they've been put into the world. So they get put into foster care.
They get foster parents who are a young couple who want to adopt them permanently. And Mary Beth and Bob are still fighting for these children. Eventually, after 2 years of fighting, there turns out to be kind of a phone call that was made that breached lawyer-client confidentiality.
Mary Beth's own lawyer called the judge and was like, this is kind of nuts though. And he used that as a vibe to say, you've lost custody of the children. So Mary Beth puts in a ton of money to get these out-of-town lawyers who call it up, use that, get the whole case thrown out, and they get Mary Beth and Bob the legal rights to the children. However, at this point, the children are fully 2 years old. They have been living with the same foster family, and that family has been trying to adopt them. They are actually trying to get full custody of these 2 babies that they've been raised for 2 years.
So these are the only parents. The foster parents are the only parents these children have ever known.
Mary Beth has never even met them.
Yes. And it's hard because, Mary Beth is the person who made the conscious choice to bring these children into the world. She's not the person who physically brought them into the world, and she's not biologically related to them. They are, however, biologically related to her youngest 3 children. So a lot of precedent in these cases would want to tie the children to their closest biological siblings.
Yeah, the reunification of genetic siblings.
And they also kind of find misconduct and general bias against Mary Beth because she is a nutcase. The judge kind of says she needs to be punished for these actions. But it's hard because the punishment is the lives of these 2 children.
And I understand at first, it seems so fucked up to take these children and put them in foster care because the babies didn't do anything. And now they're being like denied people who love them. But they now have 2 people who love them. Mary Beth is going to rename them. These are 2-year-olds. These are people who have been learning their names for 2 years, taken from the only home they've ever known. And Mary Beth's argument was like, the longer it takes, the worse the reunification process is going to be. But it really is like, what reunification? I mean, it's just so fucked from top to bottom. And what this woman has done is insane. The amount that she's put the rest of the family to. They've lost so much money on these court cases. She took all of their money out of their 401k. They were heavily taxed against it. She's lost her job. She's not allowed to go to her children's school anymore. They've been kicked out of the Girl Scouts. And even then, I have to say, like, the lengths that people have gone to punish this woman because they think she put these children in an unfair position, which she did. But, like, it only then hurts the children she already had. Like, there's no way to fairly punish her without taking the mother of so many children away.
I guess a lot of people have said no to her, right? She had to find an IVF clinic that was willing to work with an older woman. She had to find all of these different resources in order to kind of make her schemes come true. There were some roadblocks in place that ideally should have stopped this and couldn't because I understand also like whose job is it to tell a 6-year-old woman what she is and isn't allowed to do, but it's so hard when her actions result in human life. Like there are people coming into the world as a result of her actions. And so whose job is it to make sure that things aren't bonkers?
The craziest part is so they were going to have her plead guilty to get down to like 6 months in jail because they're like, well, that's not so bad. And then give up custody of the children. And her lawyer says to her, well, just try again with 2 new ones. Like the idea that anybody would say to this woman, well, what you should do is start fresh and have 2 more children.
I guess I also can't believe the way that she's been. I know she had a couple years of infertility, but the way that she has quite successfully welcomed a shocking number of children into the world. I'm like, what do you mean it just keeps working?
13, including in her 60s.
I mean, people do rounds and rounds and rounds with no success.
Oh my God. One of the other weird facts that we haven't mentioned is in preparing for these surrogate twins, she got some medicine off of like some French medicine from Facebook Marketplace
to make her lactate.
Yeah. So she was planning at her big age to breastfeed these children herself. At 67 years old, she was going to breastfeed twins. I mean, what in the Hilaria Baldwin?
Really horrifying stuff. Because it's so hard because you're like, this woman must be stopped, but to stop her would deprive these other children of a mother.
But it's like, okay, so stop her from going forward. And I will say, we saw it in this surrogacy article we read from Wired, as I cited a couple weeks ago.
These agencies are so unethical.
We need to have a surrogacy oversight right the fuck now. There are children's lives at stake. I mean, you want to talk about, I hate all of those fucking suburban moms who are worried that their children are going to be trafficked in the parking lot of Walmart, that like baby thieves are just behind every bush. No, wealthy white women with pilot husbands, wealthy venture capitalists in San Francisco are using other women's bodies through surrogacy agencies. And like, this is the trafficking. There were 2 children who were put in foster care who shouldn't have even existed. Like, it's just not fucking fair.
It's so insane because I don't even know what the solution is, because in order to have oversight with surrogacy, that would be like a government agency. But right now, our government agencies can't even, right now they're going up against Tylenol. You know what I mean? Like, it's so.
I mean, right now they're rolling back abortion rights.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, I know Trump was like pro IVF. Like, the weird bobs and zags and zigs of this administration. Yeah, of like self-interest versus hating women.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's really fucked.
It's really fucked. You know what else is really fucked? Barbara the nanny.
This is the season of crazy bitches coming up against one another. I guess the crazy bitch in this story was God, thinking that like menopause was going to do anything. She said, you crazy bitch. You watch me. So this week in The Cut, as you guys know, The Cut specializes in freak stories about rich people who rich wrong. We have the Nanny Squatter. A couple thought they'd found Mary Poppins until she refused to leave. So essentially, we talked to Jamie. This is a Swedish couple. I think that's important because God bless the Swedes. Nice people, freaks, right?
Big
Am I allowed
freaks.
to say that? I mean, they have an odd way about them.
I don't feel that this couple exemplified Swedish oddness to me.
I guess I heard the whole thing with a Swedish accent. So I was like, yeah.
To me, this is not how the Swedes I know act. And I do agree that there's a Swedish oddness.
Who do you know?
None, but
Zara Larsson?
I mean, Max Martin.
Oh, your friend?
I just think this isn't Swedish behavior. This is like New Rochelle behavior.
Manhattanites with money come to Hillsdale, a town of 1,800, about 20 minutes east of Hudson, when they want to slow down. So this story is about couple Jamie and Philip Nordenstrom, 2 consultants in their late 30s who bought and restored a neo-colonial farmhouse and then ended up moving up there. And then in 2024, Jamie had a baby, their first daughter. They wanted to find an au pair, but struggled to find somebody who was interested in, I guess, working for little money in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I think the money is not brought in as a factor. They just kind of say it's like an odd town to move to.
No, but that's why you get an au pair, because they're cheap.
Oh, okay.
Like the whole point of an au pair is that you get some 19-year-old from Europe who, like, in exchange for free housing, will like babysit your kid. That's the like an au pair is like a cheap option.
Okay.
But why would they live for free in a city nobody wants to be in?
Okay.
They wanted their baby to be raised at least bilingual. Philip is Swedish, but they struggled to, I guess she's not even Swedish. I was like, this is unreal. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, they settled for a nanny and they said the guest house was provided. So they end up finding this woman, Barbara, who, although she doesn't speak Swedish, speaks German.
Okay, this to me was the biggest red flag in the entire
We're in paragraph
story.
2 and now she's already like, I'm out.
I guess I feel that if you want your child to be bilingual in accordance with your first of all, if you want to raise your kid bilingual with the language of your people, speak to them in that fucking language. Second of all, to be like, we need them bilingual. We're Swedish, but German will do. That's crazy to me.
You understand that they couldn't find an au pair who spoke Swedish, fine. But then they were like, we're looking for an au pair who speaks anything. You couldn't find anyone?
Well, what do you mean anything? What do you mean anything?
Okay, so her name is Barbara Molnar. She's sweet. She's good with the kids. The guest house was offered for a full-time nanny. However, Barbara's only going to work part-time for $25 an hour, 18 hours a week, more if she chooses. But Barbara still's like, could I live in the guest house anyway? And they're like, sure, until we get someone full-time. Her adult children lived in the city and she couldn't afford better housing. Jamie, a Democrat and member of Hillsdale Town Board.
A Democrat. A Democrat.
You hear it. Unfortunately, Democrat has become kind of a slur.
The rats don't run Hillsdale.
Democrats do. Guess what? They'll hug your gay son while they drone your house.
We should build housing for poor Barbaras, but not in my backyard.
She's a Democrat, a member of the Hillsdale Town Board who had run on affordable housing, and she didn't ask questions. She didn't charge the nanny rent. She didn't need the money, and she didn't want to have a legal status as tenant. So she redecorates the guest house, gets some nice furniture in there. Barbara moves in December, and at first it's perfect. However, there are some red flags. It was a no-pet household. Barbara brings her Labrador. Around Christmas, she asked if her son could stay with her during his break from boarding school, and they're like, yeah, of course.
He just moves in.
Yeah. And can I say later, one of the problems comes up is she's like, he goes to school here. And I'm like, okay, so there was no boarding school.
Yeah.
There was no boarding school.
Barbara supposedly has this kind of odd backstory where she used to be rich and then her ex-husband stole a lot of money from her. She had 3 children with her first husband, 1 child with a deadbeat who I guess like stole all her money. And now she was kind of just down and out.
Yeah. And they said she was great. She would come over and cook. They would pay her to cook for them. She was nice. She was easy to talk to. But there was definitely like red flags. You know, the dog thing, the son thing. And then somebody said, oh, I met your neighbor. And she's like, neighbor, that's our nanny. There was definitely something was happening where she seemed more familiar and more friendly than maybe an employee would be. One evening in early June, the Nordenstroms arrived home after a trip to Sweden and saw strangers' cars parked in the front lawn.
It's always Sweden, isn't it? Too bad the baby can't understand the language.
Yeah, but if they had a German friend, the baby and that German friend would be laughing. I'm joking.
Ein Schwein dry.
I don't know what they did to those bobsledders. I'll never forgive them. What if that was my big historical gripe with Germany? Germany has a pretty disgusting history about what they did to this my favorite bobsledding team. I don't like the way they treat people.
I don't like the way those bobsledders came and took all the attention from those hardworking German boys. Stealing all their counting. Oh making them look like assholes when, I'm sorry, some people trying to win.
You can't take that engineering out of the country. Anyway, so they come home. There's all these teenage boys, and they're like, what the hell? Where's Barbara? They're like inside sleeping. Barbara's like, what? I'm throwing my son a party. I can't do that. And they go, there's meat in all of the refrigerators.
She filled our refrigerators with hamburger meat, and we've got nowhere for our Swedish grocery.
Can I say something?
What?
I'm really startled and impressed. Imagine coming home from Sweden, not a small trip, and I imagine they're driving in from New York City.
Straight to the grocery store?
Take a nap, my friend. Call takeout. Call Barbara. Have her
If you'd
cook.
gone straight home, you would have had endless hamburger meat. What a dream.
Walking around inside, Jamie noticed that both of her refrigerators were full of hamburger meat and there was no room for their groceries. Dog hair had clogged up the wet and dry vacuum of the main house, and her bedroom sheets, which she normally hangs to dry, were soft, as if put in the dryer.
What the fuck?
My sheets are normally hard as rocks.
I want them crisp as if they've been dried by wind and dirt. I want a sharp corner to cut me.
She was fairly certain that the teens had used the outdoor sauna as a changing room. Exhausted, Jamie went to bed, but awoke to the sound of pots and pans banging in the kitchen. Barbara, she thought, and she went downstairs to confront her. Instead of apologizing, Barbara got angry. She accused Jamie of embarrassing her son in front of his friends. The whole situation was so bizarre. We didn't know what to do.
So then she fires Barbara. After this, her trust is broken. Things are weird between them. And finally she goes, yeah, we gotta end this arrangement.
Immediately, Barbara goes, you don't know the law. This is my home, my furnished apartment. This is my designated parking spot. You can't get us out of here.
Okay, so then Jamie starts going through Barbara's landlord history, which I don't even know how she got access to it or whatever.
Well, she was running background checks.
And apparently she's left every apartment in recent history demolished.
Demolished and owing money.
So Barbara initially insists that she needs to stay until October. And this starts a real back and forth where Jamie's trying to get the law involved. She's calling the cops. She's trying to get judge's orders to figure out how she can get Barbara out.
Jamie was terrified. Barbara has spent 8 months living with the family and caring for her child. But now Jamie didn't even know who she really was, what she was capable of, or whether she was even fluent in German.
I'll tell you what, nobody fucking cares if your kid wasn't going to learn German.
And thank God for it. Your kid is better off not knowing German.
It ruins Cool Runnings if you can understand the German. I just think, what do you think your kid is going to fucking osmosis through an 18-hour-a-week nanny?
And then what? They're going to go to Germany where everyone speaks English? It just isn't even helpful. Learn something like Mandarin or Arabic.
Or Swedish, the language your family speaks.
I feel like I'm honking like a goose over here. You've got me honking, Ashley. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so the legal back and forth goes on for ages.
So there is like a contested 2 months where Jamie puts up cameras everywhere all over the property, and then Barbara puts cameras up back at Jamie, and they're like double watching each other. And Jamie keeps calling the police, and they keep showing up and being like, we don't understand what's happening here. Why are you guys so mad at each other?
They keep going to court, and the judge keeps being like, what? I don't know, man. This is crazy.
Jamie's like, you got to get your car out of here or I'll tow it. And Barbara's like, I need my car to find a job. It is back and forth. It's very contentious. There's all these like tenants' rights rules. So like all of the pretty little fixtures that Jamie put in Barbara's house, she can't come take back. So she's like, she has my candlestick holders, my favorite candlestick holders. And Barbara's, of course, crazy. Like they're like walking around. She keeps getting photos of Barbara like letting her dog pee on the trees. And then this is my favorite. Something really sad that happened to the Nordenstroms is usually they throw a big 4th of July party for their neighbors and friends. This year, because of the nanny situation, they settled for a smaller daytime event.
Oh, fuck. A daytime 4th of July party? How gauche. Usually 4th of July happens at the end of the night.
It's not the 4th till midnight strikes on the 5th, really. It's not the 4th till tomorrow. At the party, an unwitting friend of Jamie's and her husband wandered into the guest house to use the bathroom. Barbara and her son weren't there, but they got an alert on their phone. And so then an officer showed up and was like, now you're breaking into Barbara's house. I will say this. Of course, they weren't going there to use the bathroom. They were like sneaking around
to snoop, because I'm sure they were excited about Jamie's tales of her Looney Tune former nanny.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You had a small July 4th and your friends don't know what's going on. You've called the cops every day. So like they're fighting all the time. She starts doing these inspections Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. And she's like, you're leaving wet stuff everywhere and everything reeks of meat. And then Barbara keeps calling the cops to be like, you're locking me out. But it seems like Barbara was just forgetting her key or something.
Can I say, to get pissed at the wet stuff and the meat, you were just so excited about her German heritage and now you hate it.
All summer long, sheriffs, court clerks, judges, and neighbors got pulled into the feud. Some saw a woman of means trying to drag an older woman with nothing. Many people were like, this looks really bad. Who would side with the approximation of an evil landlord? But they were like, it's not fair.
Also, they were kind of like, we're not landlords.
Yeah, she was living here. Anyway, so by August 6th, Barbara had nothing left. They were like both sleeping at neighbors at some points. Like they both were like, we had to take nights at the neighbors because we were so nervous. And then Jamie starts getting insane and being like, she's going to come for the child. I have to watch the baby. And I'm like, she doesn't want that baby. If anything,
she wants your house.
Without the baby, preferably, I think. I think the work of a baby would be a lot. Then she claims that Barbara almost hit her with a car.
Because she went to go serve Barbara eviction papers.
And Barbara was driving up. She was backing up down the driveway. And then Barbara was coming close. She goes, she stopped a mere 10 feet away from me. And I go, well, how big was the driveway? Anyway, on August 31st, she finally leaves Barbara. She cleaned the space, packed up her things, left the brass candlesticks, and headed to an Airbnb.
The apartment was covered in piss.
Yeah, the cleaners arrived and said basically that like everything had been peed on, including all the mattresses and the sisal rugs, and that it was soaked so bad and been going on for actually months. And they just hadn't told Jamie because they didn't want to upset her. But the floors were all soaked, and she ended up having to get an environmental cleaner because the usual cleaning company couldn't handle the job. So then the reporter goes and says, well, Barbara, what's your side?
So we sit down with Barbara, a pleasant older woman who's had a sordid past. She's had many landlords who lied about her so brutally. She said, yeah, the appliances were broken because it was a shitty, not updated apartment, and they didn't update any appliances.
So interestingly enough, she had been married to a wealthy man. He was the creator and owner of Serafina's. Ever heard of it? Have you ever done a pre-prom dinner in NYC?
No.
Have you ever done a post-recital 7th grade birthday party?
Not in NYC, I haven't.
Have you ever been to Serafina's?
No, but I've heard of it.
You've never been?
No.
Well, don't go. It's not really worth it. It's not good. It's like toddler. I would call it New York City's Pizzeria Uno, which is great pizza if you don't already live in New York City.
Anyway, so she got married to this man who ended up starting a restaurant. The restaurant went gangbusters. It became, I guess, the go-to spot for every pre-prom dinner in town.
Yeah. Well, at first it was really cool.
And they made a lot of money. They were quite rich.
And then he was abusive, so they broke up. And he took all the children from her and sent them all to boarding school in Europe, where they probably were learning Swedish.
Oh.
I will say she is like a little nutcase. She was like, I was supposed to be somebody. She goes, I designed a coat and I would have made millions if only someone had given me the $65,000 I needed to purchase cashmere for Loro Piana because it was too expensive for them to make money. And I was like,
what are you talking about?
It doesn't sound like you're going to be a millionaire.
But she does have this air of someone who was supposed to be of the upper crust and has been constantly knocked down at no fault of her own.
She gets divorced in 2001. She doesn't get very much. She gets a few $1,000s a month for the rest of her life, and then a house in Westport that he owns, and then he sends all the kids to Switzerland and Italy for boarding school. She goes to Paris and meets a French wine scion with a couple chateaus. She has a son with him. That relationship soured too. Barbara is currently suing him for nearly $5 million in child support and damages.
So at some point, she gets $2 million from an ex, and then the father of her youngest child.
No, a random guy that she
lived with on and off.
Yeah, so the guy who actually introduced her to her first husband named Giovanni, she asks him to manage it and they live together. 3 years later, Barbara tried to make withdrawal from the account that had $2 million in it, and there's only $1,200 left. She worked with the FBI on the case, but to no avail. So she claims this man stole all her money. I do feel it's quite possible that in 3 years, 2 delusional people spent $2 million.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound about right?
Yeah. It does. And she has a lot of designer clothes. She dresses and it's one of the reasons that in the neighborhood that she was living in with Jamie, she fit in more like a neighbor than a nanny because she's always wearing designer dresses.
And she speaks languages. She's well-traveled. With no money and nowhere to go, Barbara and her youngest son dipped in and out of homelessness. They slept in cars and hotels. And then eventually she stayed with Giovanni and she goes, I've never confronted him though because I need to keep him close for the FBI. I do think they just spent the money.
Yeah, probably.
So she then ends up staying in all these apartments that she keeps getting kicked out of or owing money on. And she says it's not her fault.
Yes, she says it's not her fault. The apartments were, bad. The landlords were mean. She didn't destroy anything.
It was actually this guy, Giovanni, who rented these apartments in her name.
Yeah.
The allegations she's very upset about. She goes, yes, appliances were broken, but because they never fixed them. And then there was in one of the apartments, they had written on the wall, you greedy old hag, I hope you don't care that I'm on the street. And she goes, well, maybe my son did that, which I would say is under your purview. And then I guess she said that somebody called her fat and she goes, no. She called me overweight.
And then she goes into her relationship with Jamie. She said she had felt so welcomed by her. And then for that relationship to have turned so quickly, she has no idea really what happened because Jamie said it was okay for her son to have a small gathering of his friends. They said it was okay for her to use the sauna. There were all these things, like the one time that she was clinking dishes around, she was washing a single dish.
She goes, the reason I had the party without telling them is I thought it would just be easier if they didn't know and it would be done once they got back.
Yeah.
It was just a few boys.
I wasn't ever yelling at them. I'm just a loud talker. It sounds like she's being like, you're racist. I'm just German.
She said I broke her trust. I'm a liar. I'm a deceitful person. I said, okay, if you want us to leave, then we'll leave. But I told her I needed till October for my son. And when she wouldn't give it to us, it was just ridiculous. Like, there's no way for me to get work. And now she's telling everyone I'm so awful.
And it's preventing her from getting work. And so now it's making it harder for her to leave because everyone in town was hearing these horrible things about her. And as for the pea-covered home, she goes, maybe a bear did that.
Yeah, she thinks it was a bear. I guess the author of this article said, could it be your dog? And she goes, no, I think it was probably a bear who kept coming in for months. I will say if there's one thing I've ever learned about rich people is that they let their dogs piss and shit everywhere. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and also that there's bears who want to just use indoor rooms.
So Jamie is like, I still fear she might come back or try to interact with me and my daughter, my poor daughter. So Jamie keeps taking her back to court and saying she has to get out of town because she goes, what if my daughter gets older and then I have to tell her who this woman is? And finally, the judge goes, well, she's out of your house. You can't tell her to leave town. That's crazy. So he gets a restraining order against both of them.
Like, they both have a protective order against each other.
Which Barbara sees as a win. And Jamie is like, but I didn't do anything. And I'm like, I don't know. Telling somebody what town they're allowed to live in is pretty bonkers.
So the thing is, Jamie seems like an uppity bitch who is right that Barbara didn't just get to live there as long as she fucking wanted.
Jamie said, it's like we lost the summer of our lives. She told me these types of situations happen to wealthy people the Nordstroms know, like CEOs and executives, too stigmatized to say anything about it. That's part of why she wanted to create a record of her situation to protect others and draw attention to a system designed to protect Barbara's rights over her own.
Okay. I guess what was probably happening is Barbara thought that she could just extort a lump sum of cash.
Yeah, that's what everybody else said, that they just ended up paying her off. But Jamie had told her husband, we are not paying this woman off.
Yeah, and I think Barbara was not ready for the level of crazy she was going up against with Jamie.
I mean, I feel like Jamie had every right to be like, it turns out I don't trust you. There's something going on here. You're not like...
Because she shouldn't trust her. There was something going on there.
But I think when she's like, she's coming for the baby. She tried to hit me with her car. I'm like, well, that's not true. Barbara was not prepared to have met her match.
No. And that's the thing, is I think Barbara found her mark. I think she thought she'd get free rent for a while and then she could extort money. It turned out that she could not. And I think Jamie is an uppity bitch who was right in this situation.
You get to fire somebody that you don't trust with your children. You get to do that.
Especially, yeah, you get to fire someone you don't trust with your children and you don't have to provide 4 extra months of housing.
I will say she's like, we were so generous giving her $25 an hour. And I'm like, that's not generous. That's what you pay a teenager that babysits for the night.
I think that's why you thought she was Swedish.
Yeah, there was something very like
universal health care about her belief in what people should get paid.
There's something very like tit for tat of like, you know how in those countries they're like, it's not rude, it's just true. Your smelly son was in our sauna. We don't want that anymore. Now get out before you attack my daughter.
Your broad shoulder looks off in that spaghetti strap.
Please leave. You upset my aesthetics. One of the things is Barbara's like, she was crazy. Everything in the house had to be white, including the flowers. And Jamie goes, I have a blue flowers. I have 6 blue flowers. See, I think Jamie's probably from New Jersey, but to me, she sounds so Nordic.
You sound like Fred Armisen.
Okay, I thought I sounded like Swedish Chef, who is my basis for all things holy.
Anyway, I guess I really am like, yeah, I don't know, Jamie. You probably suck to work for. You underpay people. She was getting free rent.
It's like an interesting look at like class dynamics. They both have very delusional ideas of who they are. Jamie thinks she's this generous, wealthy woman who gives so much and is so hospitable. Meanwhile, she deeply isn't. She like loves to be like, I treat the help like family, but their family is not welcome here, not near my family.
Also, like, I treat the help like family that should be seen when I want them to be seen and not otherwise.
And very like, oh, I am so generous. And that's when my first attempt to find childcare was as cheap as humanly possible. And my next attempt was secondarily as cheap as humanly possible.
Because what the fuck do you mean you couldn't find a Swedish nanny?
They weren't willing to pay the price. A nanny is very expensive. To have somebody's full-time job work for you, that's a lot of money. Pay up, bitch.
This is the conversation that keeps on happening. Childcare is too expensive. I mean, private, personal, full-time assistance.
Yes. If you want somebody in your home working on your schedule that privately handles your one child, that's a full-time job.
And also to think that it should be like a cheap and inexperienced person. It's like, Oh, you're just gonna have them take care of your kid full time?
Mm-hmm. It is low-key crazy though that,
And they don't even know CPR? Good luck.
but so like that was her problem, is she likes to think of herself as more generous and benevolent, and she's a true Democrat than she really is. She wants affordable housing, but like, my housing is not affordable.
And then also the other thing about the housing is I'm like, yeah, Barbara is not entitled to, like,
well, I also think Barbara is entitled, not to her, Jamie's house necessarily, but like Barbara is somebody who thinks of herself as a temporarily embarrassed millionaire. She had been staying at her friend's house who was like the heir to Rite Aid and like the head of MAHA Institute,
yikes.
as in Make America Healthy Again. And for some reason, she's like, well, we just felt cramped there and it made my son depressed to be cramped. I mean, this is a woman who does believe she's entitled to the main house and was like gonna get it. Do you know what I mean? She felt she should get to throw her son a pool party at a nice fancy house.
Yeah.
And she figured out a way to make it happen. And it was like
one day too late.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? These are two entitled women who have ideas of themselves as being very different than who they are.
Mm-hmm. And
oh boy, did they butt up. Did they meet their piss-soaked match? Well, do you want to read the comment that you read? Because it's interesting. I'm really excited to hear. We'll put a place on our Instagram so you guys can say what you think, but I'm really interested to hear what everybody's opinion is, because I think it's very split, like between tenants' rights and landlord rights. Like people really felt both ways.
So this is the top comment on the article. Barbara frequently and for long stretches stayed in a very elegant hotel that I briefly worked at in Hudson. It houses one of the best and most expensive restaurants in the area. This was 2018 to 2019. She dined almost every single night with her husband/boyfriend and child. She is batshit crazy, pushy, rude, entitled, clearly emotionally unbalanced. I more than once had to inform her that if she continued to be rude and abusive to staff, then she would not be served again. I still see her around town. She comes off as dangerous, entitled, and mentally ill. I often see her confronting people out of the blue and then mumbling aggressively to herself.
The wild part about the divide in comments is that Barbara is one big payday away from acting worse than Jamie. It isn't class consciousness to side with Barbara. She's probably a bigger snob than Jamie. She's a grifter living beyond her means. I do believe that. I don't think Barbara is like the every woman.
Exactly. But what I was going to say is, I guess Jamie was bit by her own cheapness. I do believe that she erupted at Jamie more than once. I do believe she's someone who, once you see her erupt, you would say, well, you can't work with my kid. You can't be in charge of my child. And I also wonder, like, what was the interview process and what other red flags behavior-wise was Jamie ignoring because she didn't want to pay for more expensive childcare.
And I think the other appeal of Barbara was
Private
that she
childcare.
didn't seem like an employee. I think they liked this idea that they had this like chic bilingual woman who used to be a model and knew about wine and was, you know what I mean? Like, and she was a wonderful cook. I think they like really had this haughty idea that, yeah, the heir to Serafina should be our au pair. Anyway, Hudson, what a place.
What a place. Can't even get a fucking nanny in Hudson. Jesus Christ.
What has this country come to?
Where can rich people just live?
Good help is hard to find. Anyway, you guys, don't forget to send us your caps off for this week. I feel like the celebrities didn't do so bad. They had an easy out.
I tip my cap to Demi Lovato as Poot. I really liked it.
Caps off, Demi. And good night.
And good noticings.